welcome to all joining us this morning. My name is Adele Kroch and I am from Food Focus. I want to thank the Consumer Education Project of Milk SA for selecting us to present this webinar today. SEP is committed to communicating dairy as a vital part of a healthy South African diet through its various communication programs. I would like to introduce you to Christine Layton, the Project Manager of the Consumer Education Project of Milk SA, and she will be introducing the topic and the other two speakers. Good morning, Christine, and welcome to you.
Good morning, Adele, and good morning to all the attendees, and very welcome to this webinar we're presenting today. As Adele mentioned, the Consumer Education Project of Milk South Africa will be presenting the webinar, and we are also known as Rediscover Dairy. So today we're going to unpack the dairy matrix, an important educational tool to explain the health benefits of dairy. And over the past few years, scientists have explored why dairy foods provide you with more health benefits than you expect. And why is whole foods more than the sum of the parts? So our speakers today is Marietta Vermaak and Jean-Andre Johnston. Marietta Vermaak is the dietitian on the project, and she will unpack the science behind the dairy matrix. Jean-Andre Johnston is our Food Science and Communications Officer, and he will talk about the media landscape for dairy. I will also be presenting after Marietta. I now hand over to Marietta to talk about the dairy matrix.
Everyone, I will be presenting to you today one of the most important reasons why dairy is unique in its nutritional composition. That is the dairy matrix. If we look at the outline of my presentation, I will start with a bit of an overview of nutrients and the background thereof. Then we would look at whole foods versus single nutrients. What does the term food matrix mean? Then I'll zoom in a little bit more into dairy specifically, looking at the definitions of the dairy matrix and then the dairy matrix health effects. When we go shopping, we tend to pick up food from the supermarket shelf and often turn to the nutritional information on the back to see what it contains. We would most often look at sugar or fat content or check the protein and the sodium content. But there is a lot more to foods than just the nutrients on the label. The early parts of the 20th century was dominated by the discovery of individual nutrients, including vitamins, minerals, and amino acids. This was then followed by many decades of research on the role of individual nutrients in relation to the maintenance of health and prevention of disease. The understanding of the individual functions of different nutrients within the overall diet resulted in remarkable transformation in population health, such as virtual elimination of scurvy due to a vitamin C deficiency and other micronutrient deficiencies, such as the role of vitamin K in blood coagulation. Some nutrient deficiencies were then added by using strategies such as fortification. And a good example of that is the iodization of salt in South Africa, and in the dairy industry, vitamin D fortification of milk. Milk naturally contains very little vitamin D, but because vitamin D is a crucial part of bone building, milk is seen as an ideal vehicle for vitamin D. Therefore, milk is fortified with vitamin D in countries like the US and Europe. However, it is important to remember that no fresh milk in South Africa is fortified with vitamin D, as we have always believed that we have sufficient sunshine to provide us with the vitamin D we need in South Africa. Currently, there are some UHD products on the South African retail market that are indeed enriched with vitamin D, but that is only some UHD brands. The approach to studying individual nutrients in relation to health has been described as a reductionist approach and was key in the establishment of nutrient recommendations, such as the recommended daily allowances, to maintain adequate population health and to form the basis of food-based dietary guidelines. Here we saw that traditionally nutrition scientists have focused on encouraging or discouraging consumption of certain nutrients to maintain health and prevent disease. reductionist approach to nutrition, however, has led to unintended consequences, where food was easily classified as good or bad foods, or even superfoods, due to the nutrients they contain, regardless of their overall nutrient profile or health effects. Therefore, as science progressed and developed, the need to recognize the importance of whole foods, the effect of dietary patterns became evident. That is why we have seen a growing recognition in science circles that dietary guidance should be based on the evaluation of the health impact of whole foods rather than individual nutrients they contain. In recent years, nutrition science has shifted from examining individual nutrients to examining the association of the entire food matrix, whole foods, and health. While we have known about many of the nutrients like fats and proteins for centuries, the complex makeup of different foods and how they interact to benefit our health are only just being discovered. This is based on the theory that we do not eat nutrients in isolation, but as foods and in meals and as part of dietary patterns. From this research, a different picture has emerged than what might be predicted from the nutrient content of foods alone. This is referred to as the food matrix effect. These changes in focus happened mainly for two reasons. Number one, when compared to the first half of the 20th century, the incidence of nutrient and energy deficiencies have replaced by overnutrition and the associated increase of people who are overweight in many parts of the world. This in turn has led to an increase in obesity and related non-communicable diseases. Secondly, epidemiological science has made a strong contribution to nutrition science by giving us insight into the association between the intake of whole foods and non-communicable diseases. It gave us a new understanding of the effect of food on health, which cannot be explained by the effects of the individual nutrients. For example, seeds and vegetables and fruit are found to decrease the risk of coronary heart disease, and red and processed meats to increase the risk of colorectal cancer. There is scientific consensus about these associations, but it cannot be explained entirely by the nutrients alone. The food matrix describes a food in terms of both its structure and its nutrient content, and how these interact together. Foods consist of a large number of different nutrients that are contained in a complex physical structure. The nature of the physical structure, together with a mix of nutrients and bioactives, can impact nutrient digestion, absorption, and metabolism, affecting the overall nutritional and health properties of the food. When looking at dairy, we see that dairy specifically is a very good example of the food matrix effect. Dairy foods are complex physical structure housing macronutrients, that is our protein, carbohydrates, and fats, micronutrients, all the different vitamins and minerals you get, and then the various other components such as bioactive compounds. Most of us know that milk, cheese, and yogurt are excellent sources of calcium, but dairy foods naturally contain a unique package of nutrients, including high-quality protein, calcium, potassium, vitamin A, an array of B vitamins, phosphorus, magnesium, iodine, and then carbohydrates, various fatty acids, and bioactive components. Looking at the different structures of dairy, we can differentiate between milk, that is a liquid structure, whereas yogurt has a semi-solid gel-like structure, and cheese, which is a more solid. These distinctions are important as the different physical structures can also affect the bioavailability of nutrients, the way they are digested and absorbed by the body, and the consequent health effects after consumption. The nutrients in dairy act like a team within the specific structure they operate within. Dairy as a whole food is therefore greater than the sum of its parts. and the unique interaction of nutrients within dairy, referred to as the dairy matrix, is responsible for its many health effects. Let's look at the definition of the dairy matrix. These definitions have been adopted by the International Dairy Federation after evaluating many research papers on the topic. The IDF describes the dairy matrix as the unique structure of a dairy food, its components, and how they interact, where the components refer to the nutrients and the non-nutrients in dairy. While at the same time, they have also created a separate definition for the dairy matrix health effects. The dairy matrix health effects refer to the impact of the whole dairy food on health and that extends beyond its individual components. Standing still at the dairy matrix health effects, we see that the South African food-based dietary guidelines recommend the consumption of milk, maas, and yogurt every day. This is due to their natural nutrient richness and the key role this play in human nutrition, health, and development throughout life. Milk, maas, and yogurt also supply 3 of the 4 nutrients commonly lacking in the diet of South Africans. However, our food guidelines still recommend low-fat or fat-free milk and yogurt, and are limiting the use of full-cream dairy and cheese due to the concerns around the intake of saturated fats, sodium content of cheese, and the risk of coronary heart disease and overweight. As mentioned earlier, latest research relates to the whole food effect of foods, and the dairy matrix show that full cream milk and cheese are not associated with an increased cardiometabolic risk and do not cause weight gain. The exact reasons for the benefits are still unclear, but science indicates that it could be related to the complex fatty acid profile of milk, the milk fat globule membrane, and the presence of calcium. If we take a bit of a deeper dive into the health effects of dairy by focusing on the fats in dairy, it is important to note that there are more than 400 different types of fatty acids in milk. The dairy matrix research made it clear that not all fats are equal. The fat in dairy cannot be considered without taking the biological fat membranes that enclose the fat drops into account. The so-called milk fat globule membranes have a significant effect on the digestion of dairy products and the uptake of dairy fat, making the traditional association with saturated fatty acids in dairy a complete different ballgame. The milk fat globule membrane seems to prevent the negative effects of saturated fatty acids on LDL cholesterol, resulting in a decrease in cardiovascular disease risk, and in some cases, even a beneficial effect on heart disease. Yogurt and cheese, on the other hand, are also good examples of fermented dairy products with healthy bacteria and produce bioactive peptides and short-chain fatty acids that can, in addition, have specific health effects. Let's look at 2 examples. Firstly, if we look at calcium supplementation versus the calcium naturally found in dairy. Dairy is considered the best dietary source of calcium for most people, and we know it plays an important role in bone health. But dairy intake is also associated with a decreased risk of colorectal cancer and type 2 diabetes, and a neutral effect on cardiovascular disease. Some of these effects might be explained by the calcium content of dairy. Calcium supplementation, on the other hand, help to protect against colorectal cancer, but the intake of calcium supplements is associated with a higher risk of cardiovascular disease. It's specific calcium supplements that is associated with the risk of or increased risk of cardiovascular disease. The effect, however, is not found with the intake of dairy. That is then a good illustration of the different effect of individual nutrients and whole foods like dairy products that confirms the food matrix effect. The second example is the cheese matrix study. The study showed that differential effects of the content of major cheese components on LDL cholesterol of participants. The Participants were divided into 3 groups that all took 42 grams of dairy fat per day for 6 weeks, with the same amount of calcium and protein, but in different compositions. The first group consumed cheddar cheese. The second group consumed reduced fat cheese plus equivalent amounts of fat from butter. And the third group consumed all fat in the form of butter with additional supplemented calcium and caseinate. This was to mimic the macronutrient content of the cheese, namely the fats and the protein. After 6 weeks, as illustrated on this graph on the right-hand side in light blue, the LDL cholesterol in the cheddar cheese group was significantly lower than that of the group consuming the reduced fat cheese, that's the orange bar, which was again lower than that of the butter group, that's the green bar. This effect is also true for total cholesterol, which you can see in the left of the graph. So this study showed that the effects of nutrients eaten in a whole food are significantly different from that of a mixture of the same nutrients. This cheese study shows clearly that the whole is more than the sum of its parts. In summary, if we look at the health effects of dairy food, we can say that total dairy intake is associated with general health indicators, bone and muscle health, and a decrease in non-communicable diseases. Fermented dairy and yogurt are specifically associated with improved digestion and gut microbiota, appetite regulation and weight loss, and a decrease in type 2 diabetes and improved hypertensive control. And very important, fermented dairy is also strongly associated with an anti-inflammatory response. Cheese intake is specifically associated with a neutral or lower risk for cardiovascular disease, stroke, and hypertension. While studies have also shown that full cream milk is not associated with an increased cardiometabolic risk and does not lead to increased weight. The dairy matrix, in conclusion, the dairy matrix is not something that can be easily mimicked. For instance, plant-based beverages that are served as alternatives to milk, such as almond and oat milk, are not milk. They are rather highly processed foods that are fortified and do not have the natural food matrix as found in dairy products. However, further research is needed, and that will likely reveal the more in-depth insights about the beneficial health effects of dairy foods as a matrix, including the mechanisms and pathways through which different components work together and their impact on health. The food matrix concept embraces the importance of considering whole foods together with their individual components. As can be seen with this presentation, scientifically, the dairy matrix is not only a relatively new principle, but also a complex topic to communicate. In the following presentation by Christine, you will be able to see how the Consumer Education Project of Milk South Africa uses this information and communicates it, as well as other complex scientific information, to the health professionals and consumers of South Africa. Looking at the bigger picture, we can see that it's also a priority of the International Dairy Federation to share the message of the dairy matrix on as many platforms as possible. The International Dairy Federation did a research study to map all the published literature that has been done on the food matrix and the dairy matrix from 2012 to 2022. There are 75 research papers on the food matrix and 79 on the dairy matrix. These include only relevant papers provided by experts, only analysis in relation to nutrition and health, no in vitro or animal studies were included in the count, and no repetitions of studies was taken into consideration. To improve the awareness of the work done on the dairy matrix, the IDF strives to make sure that more research is published on the subject in medical and scientific journals and in presentations about the dairy matrix and its health effects that are presented at congresses and symposiums globally to a variety of disciplines within the dairy and the nutrition environment. For the South African dairy industry, health professionals and consumers, The project has a variety of information available on their website. To learn more about the dairy matrix and its health effects, please visit our Rediscover Dairy webpage and click on the links to learn more about this important topic. There are various evidence-based reviews on the dairy matrix, presentations, and videos explaining the topic. But I will hand over to Christine now, which will tell you exactly how the Consumer Education Project of Milk South Africa is doing this important work. Thank you very much.
Good morning. As mentioned today, I'm going to show you how Rediscover Dairy takes this complex message to consumers. At the recent SAFOS conference, it was discussed how important it is for scientists to become involved in consumer communication in order to get the correct, scientifically sound message to consumers while making sure it is understood. There's so much misleading information in the media, and for that reason, you will find that consumers like to think that they eat nutritionally healthy and balanced diet. And through further conversation, you will also find that they have some preconceived ideas of what is good nutrition. And unfortunately, all these preconceived ideas can be justified with a simple Google search. You will find the belief on social media that fits your own belief and your own attitude. And also remember that on social media, the information is very fragmented and you can believe whatever you want to believe. And sometimes it's difficult to change a habit. It says that can take up to 66 times to repeat a habit before you will actually change your habit. So as communicators, we do have to be very clever in telling the story that would not only resonate with the consumer, but also encourage them to rethink their way of eating. And we also know that if a consumer's had a great experience with a product, they are most likely going to choose that product again. So the question is then, how do we give consumers a great experience so that we can influence their choices going forward? Well, the most important thing is to know your consumer's landscape. You have to know what factors influence their choices, such as economic factors that may increase or decrease a household income. The impact of high food inflation on purchasing power, the affordability of food products and other commodities, the demographic changes and class mobility as consumers move to higher socioeconomic groups, as well as cultural and personal beliefs and attitudes towards certain products. The bottom line is you've got to know your consumer. And bear in mind that in South Africa, we have a population of 60 million and over 10 different income brackets. So it does complicate how you talk to your consumers. It is then very also obvious that the consumers are focused on spending their money to get the best value they can get, whether it be the daily commodity that they need or the best nutrition they can buy. To get the attention in this cluttered world of media, your messages need to resonate with the needs state of each target group. So how do we make sure that consumers experience dairy in the greatest possible way and then choose dairy over another product? So as mentioned, you've got to know, you've got to tap into the emotional state, showing them that we have a good understanding of what they want. And once you have their attention, you can then offer more concrete information that will trigger their curiosity. So let's start by asking, what is the purpose of dairy? And the purpose of dairy today is to provide nutritious and sustainable dairy to the world today and for future generations. And dairy can deliver on this purpose. We've already referenced the International Dairy Federation, which provides the food sector with a unique advantage that we have extensive scientific knowledge readily available on dairy from farm to fridge. It is a global scientific body that draws on experts globally to provide this information. And there are 9 areas of expertise. There's animal health and welfare, dairy science and technology, economic and policies, environment, food standards, hygiene and safety, marketing, methods of analysis and sampling, and nutritional health benefits. But we know that the health benefits of dairy are well known. And the strong drive of dairy's role in sustainable food system reinforces dairy's health benefits to strengthen the way dairy is viewed in the future. So looking at this list as presented here, you will see I've highlighted 3 areas that are important for communicators. This is the environment, this marketing, as well as nutrition and health. And then if we also consider the landscape of dairy, and we realize that dairy is not a single product. There's about 3.3 billion tons of unprocessed milk per year. And this is then used to make drinking milk, which is 43%, yogurt, which makes up about 26%, fermented products, which is about 15%, milk powder, 7.7%, flavored milk, 1.2%, and then other, which includes your, for instance, your cottage cheese and your cream cheese, is about 6.8%. So therefore, dairy is not just one consolidated product. There are 4 different categories, each with their own moment of consumption and their own place in the healthy diet. But this is actually where the story starts. As we heard from Marietta, we have the dairy matrix concept. The science behind the dairy matrix emerged in 2017, and the food matrix has been around for about 10 years. And scientists have focused on understanding the health benefits of dairy that are beyond the nutritional content of the dairy. Many countries, including South Africa, have developed different communication materials and videos that can be shared, and we will show you some of these today. The key message, however, is that that the takeout message here today is that all dairy products are healthy and deliver excellent health benefits. But as Marietta explained, due to their structure, which is then the milk, which is in liquid format, yogurt, which is in the gel or semi-solid, and cheese, which is in the solid state, plus the nutritional benefits of nutritional components, there are more benefits than you've previously known. And the detail about the science we leave to the health professionals and the scientists to understand and conduct more research that would explain and support these findings. So you may now ask, why is the dairy matrix such a valuable tool to communicate the health messages of dairy? So on the one hand, we have the dairy matrix explaining the unique benefits of dairy products. And then on the other hand, we have the emergence of the new products that try to mimic the taste and nutritional composition and application or usage of dairy products. And here I refer to alternatives to dairy, such as plant-based milks or vegan cheese. And I am conscious or mindful of the fact that the dairy sector does not favor the words milk or cheese being associated with plant-based dairy alternatives. There are also many, many reasons why consumers tend to believe that these alternatives are better for them. This can range from health to environment, but the main reason is that why dairy differentiates from dairy products from plant-based alternatives is that the nutrients are naturally present in dairy products, and therefore the absorption and the function of nutrients in the body are guaranteed. And it goes without saying that the taste across all the products are superb. So then how did the Consumer Education Project translate the dairy matrix into consumer language? Because it's quite a complex message. And what tools did we develop? So obviously we had to be very creative because this isn't an easy message to convey. And starting with the slogan, dairy gives you more go than you know, really captures the essence of the dairy matrix. And I wanted just to stand still for a moment. Dairy gives you more go than you know. So more benefits than you knew before. So what did we do? We developed 4 television adverts. Each one shows the benefits that are mostly associated with a particular product. And each TV ad only being 15 seconds long. There's so much information on television and in the digital space that if you do not land your message within the first 6 seconds of your ad, while being very clear about what you are trying to say, you will lose your audience. So having a short 15-second ad really lands the message immediately. So we have 4 ads. The one focuses on milk, and the benefits mostly associated to milk is hydration, muscle growth, and energy. Yogurt, mostly associated with gut health, immune support, and mental alertness. The same goes for maas or maasi, which is gut health, immune support, but we added here the muscle recovery. And then cheese is healthy growth and muscle strength. You must also remember that regulation does not allow a product to make a claim. And when speaking about the health benefits of a product, it must relate to a specific nutrient or combination of nutrients. And throughout all the different elements of our project, messages are tailored to fit the audience. The project is also very disciplined in their messaging and uses different communication channels. For the television adverts, we specifically focused on traditional TV as well as pay TV as our preferred communication channels, and we added a YouTube channel as well. Television remains an important communication channel in South Africa because it reaches into all the corners of the country. For the larger population of the population, TV is therefore your go-to medium. However, this does not come without challenges, as you might know, with blackouts or load shedding, as well as the shift from analog to smart TV, which seems to drag out forever. And this is why we added the YouTube channel. So it runs alongside every burst that we have of the TV ads. So now we will look at the 4 television adverts.
Yogurt, full of important nutrients for a healthy gut, immune support, and mental alertness. But great aim, maybe with practice. Dairy gives you more go than you know. Milk, full of important nutrients for hydration, muscle growth, and energy. But not rhythm. You go, boy, you go. Dairy gives you more go than you know. Cheese, full of important nutrients for healthy growth and muscle strength. But not a moment of peace. Dairy gives you more go than you know. Amasi, full of important nutrients for gut health, immune support, and muscle recovery. But it can't get you out of awkward situations. Dairy gives you more go than you know.
Although the TV ads were developed to communicate the dairy matrix, the consumer, the intention was also to educate the consumer in the dairy matrix. So in addition to the TV ads, and before the TV ads in 2022, an educational dairy matrix video was developed. For the viewer, therefore, that was more interested in more information about the dairy matrix, when they clicked on the TV ad on YouTube or the 5-second cut down, they would be taken through to an educational message. So in a nutshell, before we move on, the campaign consists of 4 television ads, which is on TV and on YouTube, 5 cut downs that's specifically for YouTube, and then the educational video. And now we will show you just 1 minute of the educational video.
Hi, I'm Balisa, and I'd like to tell you why the value of dairy is more than the sum of its nutrients. And by the way, I love, love, love dairy. Like milk and cheese and yogurt. They really do it for me, like really, really. That's why I'm excited to tell you why dairy is even better than you thought. And why it should be a part of a healthy diet. Like for real, no jokes. You should have milk, maas, or yogurt every day and can even include cheese as part of your diet. Did you know that dairy is a whole food? But what is a whole food, you ask? Well, a whole food is a food product that we eat, well, as a whole, like fresh veg, fruit, and milk. It's a food that naturally has many nutrients. Let's be honest, we eat food, not nutrients. Nobody says, that vitamin B12 was delicious, right? The nutrients in whole foods work together in a complex food structure to support that.
So as you can see, that video really captures the message as Marietta explained. And It is a 2.3-minute video, but we developed 15-second cut downs for each of the products. And as you can see on the slide, this then became a part of the TV campaign. And you will see how many times it has been viewed, and it increased tremendously since March this year, which was the first time that we showed the video. And this is then also an indication that there has been shown some success to land the message of the Dairy Matrix. We still have one more burst this year on television and on YouTube, so we expect that we'll be growing that educational messages even more. So although I won't be expanding much on social media today, when we launched the TV ad, we also went onto Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok and Twitter, and we had some posts that encouraged the consumers to participate in the competition and also then submit their videos, and sort of that was the call to action. And at the moment, on the Dairy Gives You Go platform, we are also running a campaign with influencers where they have to use the TV ad as inspiration to show that how they can be their best with dairy. So have a look out for this campaign. In addition to then TV, YouTube, and some of the social media, we also published some of the work of the Dairy Matrix in consumer publications as well as in digital space. I'm not going to expand on that slide as Marietta has already spoken about it. There is a menu item on our website that you can get all the information. And I'd like to alert you to the Matrix webinar that we held last year with Professor Astrup and Professor Renee Blau. It's really worth listening to, and it is on our website. So the next 3 slides will talk about important considerations in communications. The first, we should ask, what are the key considerations to encourage consumers to shift perception? First of all, communication messages must be supported with continued progress in dairy nutrition research to ensure that all the content is scientifically sound. Credibility in messaging on different platforms with all the target audience builds trust. Tapping into the need state of your consumers, which of course may change and is influenced by the economic climate. The dairy sector also needs to show that they are savvy when it comes to environmental management. And you've got to know your target audience. Where are they? Meet them where they are, whether it's on social, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, make sure you speak to them. So how does Rediscover Dairy bring communication to life? We have excellent media partnerships. These people are experts in media selection and ensure that our messages are positioned in the media to reach a specific target audience. So we meet them, our consumers in their space. We also work extensively with influencers. There are different influencers, as you can see in this table. But influencers increase the awareness and reach of your product or messages. They share your story and message through their own channels. But if you are using influencers, and to remain credible, make sure you sign off the work that they are presenting for you. Then lastly, looking at infographics, they serve a great purpose. It carries a great deal of information in pictorial format, but make sure it is clear and understood by a consumer. So in conclusion, the Consumer Education Project communicates the health and nutritional benefits of dairy, but also making sure that the messages resonate with our consumers. We must also be sure that we translate the science into relatable and easy to understand communication messages, providing additional information or links to those consumers that want to know more. Dairy must be imprinted in the mind of the consumer on all levels, not only taste and convenience, but most importantly, especially in the economic climate, of nutritional values. The important message that you can land with your consumers is to just add a little dairy to any product that you're eating, because this will impact on the nutritional profile and overall health of your consumers. And with this, I thank you for your time and encourage you to follow the Rediscover Dairy and Dairy Gives You Go brand on social media. I now hand over to Jandre, And at the end of this presentation, we will be sharing our latest newsletter with you.
During the last bit of today's webinar, we will briefly look at the media landscape of South Africa and the recent changes and challenges that face the media post-COVID with the persistent power interruptions. Lastly, we will look at some key trends and the impact of social media as a communication tool to get dairy's message to the consumers. Why is it important for the project to know what's being said? An increase in the user-dominated media space has led to word-of-mouth advertising and user-generated review system. This opens business up to fake news, untrustworthy information, as Christine has mentioned, and unfair reviews. Misinformation can damage the individual or the company's reputation. Fake news in media streams also has led to the waning of consumer trust, and finding credible information is that much more difficult. Thus, by knowing what is said in media, the project can more accurately, decisively, and wisely put resources behind what needs to be said in order to better inform the consumer. It is also very important to remain factual, because once the consumer has lost trust in the publication or brand, they will migrate towards alternatives, more personalized sources, and relationships are harder to repair. This is the main reason why the communication output should be backed by what science has proven. As referred to what Marietta has mentioned, the project relies on what research has shown. First off, we look at the media landscape in South Africa, starting with the biggest South African media companies of 2023, with MultiChoice, Media24, and Prime Media. According to Statista, South Africa's largest segment is still traditional media, with a market value of 90 billion rand as of 2023. TV is still dominating our local media space, with the digital news and radio following close behind. However, continuous growth for video-on-demand platforms and streaming services is expected to grow, with Showmax and Netflix being key players in this market. This could be possibly attributed to the rise in its popularity and in part the power interruptions and continuous blackouts in South Africa. Radio is still a big part in South Africa's media industry. However, there has been a shift towards audio providers such as Spotify that offer music, podcast, and radio content as an all-in-one package. These one-stop shop providers will become increasingly popular as the audio consumption and audio content such as podcasts continue to increase. Where is the news? COVID-19 pandemic saw an increase in demand for digital media and the need for digitalization on a global level. Ofcom figures show that the number of people consuming traditional media has significantly decreased, with only 24% of UK adults consuming print media. Meanwhile, online communication grows year on year, with a current estimate of 66% actively seeking media on a digital platform. The trend in the US also indicates the tremendous growth during the pandemic, where people spent more time online reading their preferred media content as opposed to the traditional media. South Africa is a follower of global trends, and the steady increase of internet use and cell phone connections and a new way of consuming media will mean that traditional media channels will start to stagnate, and there will be a market shift towards digital media in the future. The project monitors published content about dairy using Newsclip media monitoring tool. There has compiled a library of articles and interviews from 2019. Here we look specifically at the volume of published content, not the value of new articles across the different media streams relating to articles that mention dairy. Before COVID, we had a good sized spread of internet and digital media platforms, taking up a little over half the content generated. Digital news can potentially reach more people quicker and easier than traditional media, as it is right at their fingertips, as we will see later. Highlights of the year included the new to-be ex-royals celebrating their first son, Archie's birth, the rise of Greta Thunberg and her subsequent impact on environmental awareness, and the memorable fire that shook France at Notre Dame. Also, that very same year, the outbreak of a virus that started in Wuhan. During the first restrictions of the 21 days of isolation, the number of articles published in print nearly halved, and the inverse was observed with the use of internet as the communication avenue for news outlets. 2021 saw little to no changes in that year for most of the news streams, aside from a more noticeable decline in magazine articles being published. 2022 saw a slight rebound in the amount of articles and print available in the market around the time that the restrictions were lifted. People craved the more familiar and sought to return to business as was, which saw a steady regain in the numbers of articles published across magazines and newspapers. However, the total volume of published content would appear to have decreased to the latter part of the year as inflation started to climb and the looming tensions with Russia and Ukraine and the subsequent interest hikes ensued. This is the image halfway into 2023, with most likely challenges in print remaining the downward pressures of inflation, the decreased consumer spending power, and the continuous power interruptions. We now look at the South African landscape with approximately 60.5 to 60.6 million citizens. The majority of the citizens are urban, with 70%, at a median age of 27.6 years. Getting back to the earlier reference with news at our fingertips, at the start of 2023, there was nearly 43 million internet users, 26 million social media users, and 113 million cell phone connections recorded in South Africa. With a population size of 60 million, the stats would suggest that South Africa can have access to cell phones, and almost everyone is using the internet. The report by Meltwater suggests that globally South Africans spend the most time in internet, averaging about 9.5 hours to the global average of 6.5 hours. In comparison, the US averages 7 hours and Japan as little as 4 hours on a day. As mentioned earlier, the repository of information and articles captured by us in the monitoring tool allows the project to observe trends in the media, more specifically, what type of content is published on a recurring basis regarding dairy's nutrition and health. From 2020, we can see that from the approximate 1,800 articles, the focus of dairy lies primarily with young child nutrition, weight management, allergies, and gut health. Articles of specific interest to the project include gut health, bone health, lactose intolerance. And you will observe how these changed places in the following years. We can also see the majority of negative publicity surrounding plant-based dairy alternatives and the concern of dairy on the environment, which was sparked by the rise of the popularity of a new mainstay. The project is able to use the insights gained from the observations to direct its efforts in general communication and media releases to inform consumers and to address misinformation. Some recurring concerns expressed in the media resonate with global issues, such as environmental impact of agriculture. The project can use the information and concerns expressed in collaboration with local and international dairy communities, such as the IDF, to improve and manage the impact of the dairy sector's carbon footprint. These insights open the conversation and allow dairy sector to listen to the praises and, equally important, to the concerns expressed by the consumer, policymakers, and general media, and allows to drive a more meaningful impact in society. The opportunities identified in the media. Dairy is seen as important in nutrient for children, important in gut health, important for bone health, and in lactose intolerance. The consumers want to know more about the impact on plant-based dairy alternatives and environment. The Consumer Education Project of Milk South Africa applies a multidisciplinary approach to ensure that the right message meets the consumer, using various platforms such as owned media, social media, traditional media, as well as physical events to advocate, educate, and inspire the population. Looking specifically at the media space, consumer advertorials forms part of the Rediscover Dairy staple and printed in popular magazines and newspapers with a purpose to communicate the reason why dairy is important in the diet of families. Okay. This slide shows some of our most recent articles that were published in digital and print. During 2023, the project uses community newspapers to communicate health and nutritional benefits of dairy. By going into the community paper, the project reaches a new audience, and the overall reach of the content and the messages are increased. Here are some examples of the advertorials that you can see where the content is aimed across the age groups, from mothers in general to the elderly. Diabetic patients are also an important audience in dairy, where dairy can assist them in management of the disease. We recently published in Diabetes Focus. The monitoring of the news in the media allows the project to pick up the material when the material used by when the material developed by the project is used in media, such as when the product does not purposefully place a TV advertisement. Here we can observe the amount of times that content that was published by the project is referenced in media and used, and the value thereof. Lastly, we look at social media and its relevance in South Africa. As of April this year, South Africa has approximately 25.8 million social media users. That's nearly half of the South African population. And South Africa spends about the same time on social media as the average global citizen, of about 3.5 hours. That is nearly a third of the time that they spend on the internet that you can reach the consumer where they most often frequent. So what does the consumer do on social media, and how do they spend their time? According to the survey of Mouse Water, the average user aged 16 to 64 spends about an hour of their time looking at news and trending topics. According to Meta, the potential audience size in South Africa is about 25 to 30 million, with the majority of the users being aged 25 to 34. They are mostly urban users, as expected, with the city centers dominating this space. Meta also shows the most influential brands on Facebook and Instagram, with retail giants Pick n Pay, News24, and NCA News, with clicks dominating the social media space. These platforms are relevant, and they do have the ability to shape a sizable portion of the consumer opinions. The project has two main social media channels. Rediscover Dairy speaks with the mothers and addresses topics ranging from health, meal prep, and the value of good nutrition and caring for the family. Separately, Dairy Gives You Go speaks with a younger consumer, showing the versatility of dairy, the importance of a healthy diet. The project's most recent community engagement campaign sought to highlight the benefits of maas, and we will see a recap of that now.
Maas is a traditional South African dairy product, a probiotic powerhouse packed with proteins, vitamins, and calcium. But unfortunately, many South Africans are unaware of all the health benefits of maas. So, on World Milk Day, Dairy Gives You Go decided to educate them about those benefits by shaking things up with a song.
Shake your mass, shake your mass, shake it, shake it, shake it. For Milk Day, shake your mass, baby. Shake your mass, shake your mass, shake your mass, shake it, shake it, shake it. Shake your mass, baby. 1st of June, Milk Day.
Today, you are in my kitchen and I'm going to show you how I shake up my maas.
Now let's make some amasi masala wheels. Let's make a berry winter smoothie using maas.
Is maas a good and effective probiotic?
Yes. So, like we said, amasi is fermented and it has probiotics.
Inkomazi, amasi, kaSotho, kaSetswana, kaTshivenda. All of the names you know for sour milk.
Let's shake your mass. Shake your mass. Shake your mass. Shake it, shake it, shake it. Let's shake your mass. 1st of June, milk day.
I've been seeing a whole lot of people all over South Africa shaking their mass. And honestly, I like that. Really.
In the morning, in the evening, shake your mass. Shake your mass. At night, shake your mass.
Thank you, Jean-Ray, Christine, and Marietta. Thank you very, very much for all the presentations. I would like to compliment you, you and your team, Christine, for the effort that you are putting in ensuring that you are helping the producers out there to educate the consumers in terms of the benefits of milk and all of that. So well done to you all, and thank you very much for all the valuable information. It seems like we've only got one question, and the question is, does the processing of a whole food product influence the matrix effect of the unprocessed product? So I'm not too sure.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Adele, and thank you to the team for the work and everybody that's attended. It's been a great morning, and it's a great question as well. I think I'll start with it, and if any of my colleagues would like to add, it is great. It'll be fantastic. But obviously, one would think that unprocessed food would be better. That is your immediate go-to thought. But it's not always so, because it all depends on the level of processing. So in the case of, for example, milk, unprocessed milk is not safe for consumption. So we have pasteurization. That's a step of processing. Yogurt is also a processed food. So it all depends on the level of processing that you would apply to the product. We also like to refer to, if you can recognize the product, then it's still like a whole food. And then fortifying a product is not necessarily processing a product. So we have unprocessed, processing, ultra processor. Again, that is the level of processing. So it will affect the level of the dairy matrix, but not if it's just for safety reasons and for preserving to some degree the product, and not altering the nutritional value of the product. I don't know if any of my other colleagues would like to add to that.
Christine, maybe I could just add, if I spoke about the milk fat globule membrane, and that effect that you see that actually has got an advantage on health effects is specifically due to the homogenization processing of milk. So in that case, the processing is to the advantage of the health effects. But if you get a fortification of a product, like say a plant-based beverage that is fortified with ingredients that or nutrients that's not naturally in the product, like the calcium or the vitamin B12, it's not in the food matrix effect, so it won't have the same health effects. So in that way, there's processing that in a sense can be good towards the health effects, and some that actually will not benefit the health effects at all, if that might answer the question as well.
Definitely. Pierre says thank you very much for the very great answer. So he's happy with the answer. Unfortunately, there's no more other questions, but I also see that we've run out of time. But should there be any questions, please email them to us, and I will make sure that it gets through to Christine and her team. And I would just like to say, like Christine has mentioned, you will be receiving the latest newsletter, and this will be emailed to you, so please have a look out for that. And then I would like to say thank you to Christine, to Marietta, and to Jean-Ray for your time, for the great presentations. I think anybody that's in communication, Jean-Ray, with all that stats and details and information that you've shared, it's really to sit up straight and ask yourself the question, are you really knowing your consumer, and are you actually speaking to them? And thank you very much for that. For everybody, the presentations and the recording will be available on our website before the end of the week. So if you want to go back and relook at things or relook at some of the slides, all of this will be available on our website. Also, please note that there is a survey. As soon as the webinar ends, there's a short survey. We ask you to please complete this. This always helps us to understand what we can look at, other topics or information to share with you. And I also would like to inform you that on the 27th of September, the DSA is having a webinar with us as well. Food Focus will host that webinar as well. And Jompi Burger will be speaking about the public health risks related to the consumption of raw milk and dairy products made from raw milk. Always an interesting topic, and also to clearly understand what that means and who can do it and who can't do it and all the effects of that. So with that, from Food Focus and myself, I would like to say thank you, and once again to the team, thank you very much, and may you all have a blessed day.